and welcome back to the Quiet Connections podcast. I'm Stacey. Do you often feel like you overstretch yourself, taking on more than what you actually can manage? And when somebody asks you for your help, you instantly say yes because to say no leaves you feeling wrecked with guilt. Perhaps you struggle with boundaries, unsure of where your responsibilities end and another person's begins. Has this left you feeling exhausted, resentful, unmotivated, and maybe like you just don't care anymore? If this sounds like you, then stay tuned because you may be experiencing what's known as burnout. In this episode, I'm joined by the lovely Ioana Patale, who's going to guide us through what burnout actually is and how to recognize its early warning signs. What underlying forces are driving the behaviours which lead to burnout in the first place? And most importantly, what do you need to know and do to help heal it? So grab a cuppa, settle in, and let's get to it. Hi, Ioana. It's so lovely to have you join us, and welcome to the Quiet Connections podcast. I'm really looking forward actually to having this chat with you today because we're going to be talking about burnout. And whilst I've heard of burnout before, I don't actually know a lot about it. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about what it is, where it comes from, what we can do to help ourselves if we're experiencing it. And yeah, just do a little bit of exploring around this topic with you today. But before we get to that, would you like to start just by introducing yourself and what it is that you do?
Sure thing. Thank you, Stacey. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm super excited to be here and to share my burnout story and to share a little bit more about burnout because it is such an important subject and it's such a common topic that a lot of people don't even know, that they're going through burnout. So the more awareness we can bring to the topic, I think that the better it will be for the people going through this without realizing.
You're actually a coach as well, aren't you? Could you tell us a little bit more about your coaching practice?
Yes. So I started as a coach almost a year ago. Because I, it's funny how I always say that my burnout has turned into one of my biggest breakthroughs, actually, and how, burnout is not something to be ashamed of. Because I myself, I was in a super good career, in a super good role, advancing and being promoted quite often and, feeling like I'm really good at my job. But then, one day I just woke up and I realized that I've been feeling exhausted for quite a few months, that I've been complaining about my work to my husband and friends constantly for quite a few months, or for maybe more than half a year. And I realized that I had been so busy doing, and had taken zero time for myself and to reconnect with myself and to, check in with myself and make sure that I'm still on track with my values and I'm still, what I'm doing is still aligned with my values. And I just realized one day that, I don't know who I am anymore. Like, I don't know how I got here. It just felt like the past 6 months to 1 year, it just went by so fast. And I didn't know why am I working so much, like almost 14 hours a day, every day. I was constantly thinking about work 24/7, even when I was off work. Of course, I was checking my email first thing in the morning and last thing at night before going to sleep. So I didn't realize, and that's exactly what's specific about burnout, that it kind of acts like a snowball. It starts very small, and you think like, okay, I'm just want to work late today, I'm just gonna help out my colleague today. It's just this one time, they really need my help, and it's okay, it's fine. Okay, it's just this weekend. It's okay. I'll get a vacation when this big project finishes, or I'll get some rest when this client who's upset and who's very important to us, and they'll be happier or something like that, and you kind of keep postponing that time where you reconnect with yourself and with your values, and you take some rest, and then all of a sudden you're in burnout, and you have very little energy to get out of it. So that's the story in a nutshell. And that's exactly once I realized that I'm very exhausted and burnt out. It's actually been a dream of mine to work with people, to serve people in this manner. And I realized, okay, maybe this is the perfect time. I think this is a sign that I have not been doing, working with a meaning for some time. I've not been doing living out my purpose. So maybe this is the perfect time to actually take a break and start my coaching practice. And ever since then, because I experienced burnout and I managed to overcome it on my own with a lot of self-work and a lot of time invested and books read and, a lot of self-coaching and coaching, I decided, okay, I would really, really love to help people in this manner, specifically to overcome burnout.
That's such an amazing story, and I actually feel like there's a lot in there to unpack, and that perhaps we can get to exploring all those details throughout this. Just from exploring actually what burnout is, but there was also something in there about discovering purpose as well, which perhaps we can touch on a little bit later. So for those who are listening who perhaps haven't heard of burnout before, could you describe what it is? What is burnout?
Sure thing, sure. So it's actually a diagnosis. It's been coined by the World Health Organization as well, and it's actually related just to work as of now. As of now, it's been pinpointed to work, being dissatisfied with your work, basically. And you can tell that you're in burnout if you have the following symptoms. If you're no longer enjoying work, if your productivity has decreased, your creativity has decreased, there are some physical symptoms as well, such as trouble sleeping, digestion issues, headaches, migraines, back pains, because it's very common, especially among people who work from an office and who have without realizing, they are so working so they are focusing so much on it to work that they literally forget about their physical needs, and they don't realize that they're sitting in such a bad posture for so many hours a day.
Like me now.
Me as well. I'm also being very aware that, okay, am I sitting in a good posture right now? Yeah. So back pains, even dehydration, because again, you forget even to go to the washroom and, to drink water. And so many people eat in front of their laptops, or they eat very fast. And so hence the many digestion issues that they encounter. And the most common, I would say, there's the emotional detachment. So basically, when you start feeling, besides the obvious exhaustion and fatigue, you start not caring anymore. And which is weird, because people who go into burnout are usually people who care a lot. Like they really care about getting the job done. They are super ambitious. They have a lot of perseverance. They love helping people. So it's very weird for them, because wait, I was not this person at all. Like I used to give 110% in everything that I was doing, and today nowadays I'm waking up and I don't feel like doing anything at all, and I'm secretly even resentful at everyone who's asking me things. And I think this is a very good sign of burnout, when you're starting to be to resent the people that you used to love helping out. Now, because you're so tired, you're like, what does everyone want from me? Like, give me a break. But then again, you feel ashamed for feeling so resentful, and you don't even dare to address that topic, because it's so filled with so many complex emotions.
Wow. again, I think there's quite a few layers in that, isn't there? So first thing I picked up on is that there's something around a detachment from like self-care, which maybe we can explore a little bit in the moment. There's also something there around, to me, what sounds like a lot of shame. And I'm wondering like if you can maybe share some of the underlying fears and behaviors that are actually at force underneath this burnout, and which is potentially leading to burnout at all?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, definitely a lot of shame, because what fuels burnout, and what I've noticed from my own experience with clients, from studying myself, I've turned myself into kind of a lab rat just to make sure that I really dissect this topic and I understand it profoundly. But also from the academic studies, is that what's very common among people who reach burnout is that they are, as they call it, overly responsible. So a lot of times these people, as children, they used to be the more responsible ones in their households. So for example, maybe they were the eldest sibling who was taking care of the younger brothers. Or maybe they were someone, like it happened in my case as well, and so many cases where one of the parents is in depression or absent or alcoholic or dealing with an addiction. So basically what ends up happening is that the adult in the house is unavailable. So then the child starts feeling like, okay, there's no room here for my needs, or, to be a child. I have to step up. I have to take the responsibility of taking care of the people around me. Even, I've had a client who had an alcoholic mother, and ever since the age of 9, she had to single-handedly take care of the entire house, like cook, do the dishes, the laundry, and cleaning and everything by herself, and taking care of her younger sister. And she was doing that while taking only A grades, in school, being an A grade student in everything. So you, starting from that, you start becoming overly responsible. You take a lot of you have a lot of control over your environment because you have to. But then as adult, this is something that obviously served you as a child, and as adult, you don't realize that this is not the normal. You don't realize that you're being overly responsible. You're thinking, I'm just responsible, I'm just doing my thing, like this is how I operate, this is how the world goes round. So without realizing, you enter dynamics where you are being overly responsible, and the people around you enforce this dynamic. So you may find, maybe even leaders or bosses who depend on you a lot, who really put a lot on your plate, because that really makes you feel important and useful and significant in the workplace, or colleagues who always need your help. They see you as a mentor, and you really enjoy doing that, right? Because that's what gives you significance and purpose. But then obviously you overextend yourself, and you become exhausted and burnt out, at which point you have no energy left to give. And that's when, that massive amount of shame comes, because again, you don't know who you are anymore, and the identity that you think you have. Like, wait, I'm supposed to be the superhero. And this is exactly what happens. People see you as the superhero, but within yourself, you see yourself as a super failure. You think like, I'm not doing anything up to my mark, So there's a big disconnect. You may even call it imposter syndrome, between what other people see, and they even ask you, how do you do it all? And so they reinforce that behavior. They, like, everyone around you applauds you for this. Like, wow, I can't believe you're doing so much, and you're helping everyone, and you're volunteering here and there and there, and wow, you're like this massive superhero, And inside yourself, you're actually feeling like, I'm barely keeping it all together. I'm terrified that one of these days I'm going to drop one of the many balls that I've been juggling with.
There's something there around attaching like achievements to like a sense of self-worth or something there.
Yeah.
But that actually, other people in society are kind of reinforcing that and are potentially actually making that worse and furthering that message that actually you need to achieve more and do more in order to be worthy.
Yeah, absolutely. You put it in the exact right words. That's what it is basically. You start basing your worth on what you produce, on what you can do for other people, on your achievement, and sometimes even, as adult, on your earning potential. Because money, we equalize money with what we can do for people. So if you don't earn a lot of money, then people start feeling like, okay, I'm not doing my job. I'm not worthy. I'm not solving enough problems for the world.
Yeah. So really underneath all of this is burnout, or what leads to burnout, is really a sense of not feeling good enough.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And the only way you can feel good enough, it's kind of like you have to earn your worthiness. This category of people, of which I'm a part of, really struggle, with earning their worthiness. Like, okay, what can I do? Like they're really thinking, they're constantly thinking, what can I do to actually, prove once and for all that, okay, I deserve my place here. I deserve my place at the table. So that's how they do it. They solve problems for other people. Other people are loving it because, right? Why wouldn't they? And as you said, as you rightly put it, they reinforce that behavior.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting way of putting it, that the question essentially that they're asking themselves is, what can I do to prove my worthiness? And I think when we lay it out like that, I don't know, like I feel an awful lot of compassion actually towards that, to be like, wow, that's really not coming from a good place. And I know that there is this dynamic within society where there's like overfunctioners and then underfunctioners, and everyone's kind of reinforcing each other's behaviors. I know me and my colleague Haley have had this discussion before, because we kind of fall on either side of the spectrum. Interestingly, I tend to lean actually more towards the underfunctioning because of beliefs around not being capable enough, and that kind of freezes me and paralyzes that. Then the other side of that is that then everybody else is picking up all the other stuff because they feel responsible for it. So there is this really interesting dynamic that I think that happens. And what do you feel like needs to change in order for all of us to stop, or I suppose start working more together, and to stop this kind of cycle of unworthiness that's actually driving all of it, regardless of what side you're on?
Yeah. I love the point you made, because that's exactly what it is. Like we enable each other. And for every over functional person, there's always an under functional, and for both of them, perceived lack of worthiness is the cause. And I think the more awareness we have towards each other, like for me, for example, one of my enablers was my sister. And we both got educated, we both got awareness around this subject, and we realized, okay, there's this dynamic between us where I'm always, trying to rescue her. She's always needing my help and accepting it, and she doesn't realize when, there's no one to care for my needs and so on. And we found by addressing this topic together, as probably it happened with you and Haley, by addressing it in an open and candid manner, now we're kind of keeping each other accountable, and she's always making sure, hey, is your cup full enough? Can you help me with this? Now she always checks in with me before asking for my help, because she knows I have this tendency of giving help even when I am tired and I can't, I don't have the resources and so on. And I also understand her now a lot better. I understand where she's coming from. And so we decided, okay, I'm going to be responsible for myself. And she understand that she has to be responsible for herself as well.
Yeah. And I think that's really the key, isn't it? Is that we start to move towards that place of responsibility and accountability for who we are, as opposed to that externally, I suppose, or projecting that externally. So And I think that kind of circles back around to this idea around the self-care aspect of
Mm-hmm.
burnout and bringing that
Mm-hmm.
attention back internally. What do you
Yeah.
think or like a person who is maybe experiencing burnout, what is it that they need then to be able to start recovering or healing the
Mm-hmm.
burnout?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think the first step is, as with everything, is to recognize, to acknowledge that you're going through burnout. I think that the faster you admit that you stop the denial, I think the faster you can actually start, taking care of your needs and becoming more aware of, okay, how tired am I really? What is my capacity really today? So that when because people, just because you realize you're in burnout and you're overly responsible and so on, it doesn't mean that people all of a sudden will stop asking things from you, right? Because they know you as the person that they can rely on. They know you as the overly responsible one who will, whenever they give you a task, you do it to perfection, and you do it within the deadline, and do it without any help. So people love giving you tasks, right? Because you're someone who performs so well. So they're not going to change that overnight. You need to give people some time, and you need to give yourself a lot of self compassion, especially, and then again, awareness as to what can I really get done today. What's my capacity today, and having that in mind whenever people make requests, or something comes up, and being ready to take some time to sort through what's draining you, what's energizing you, where is the misalignment between your values and what's happening in your life right now. So really identifying those causes, and then working on each one by one. It's a burnout is a complex thing. Unfortunately, it's not something that can be worked on overnight or in a matter of 1 or 2 sessions. So people generally need about maybe 2 or 3 months to, and that's the process that we usually go through, uncovering the roots of the burnout, specifically for them, and then attacking each specific problem at once.
Yeah, amazing. So I think the question that came up for me then was what's the importance of like the reconnecting with values in terms of helping you to overcome burnout?
Mm-hmm. So a lot of times what happens with people is that because they're having that very strong sense of duty, a lot of times they will not agree with certain things that happen in their workplace. For example, the maybe the direction that the company is going in, or maybe the way their leaders do things, or a lot of times, for example, nurses and teachers are in burnout. Why? Because they really only want it, and it's called a stress sandwich, because you're basically caught between a lot of requests from above, a lot of pressure from above, from even government requirements, and hospital procedures and stuff like that. And then the requests of your patients, or in the case of teachers, the needs of the children. And you're caught in between, and these two parties don't talk to each other, and they have actually very conflicting interests, right? Like the hospital wants to make money, the patient wants to receive empathy. So like, how do you do both? Or this can happen even when you're like a middle manager, for example. Your boss wants efficiency and may put a lot of pressure on you to get things done, whereas you care a lot about the team that you're managing, and they need time and they need empathy, and you want to groom them, you want to invest in them. And so there's a conflict of interest there, and you really want to do it, but then you don't know how to deal with that tension there. And so you work really, really hard for something that you really don't believe in anymore. And I think that's one of the biggest myths around burnout, that a lot of people think it's related to the workload, to the number of hours that you're working, and it's not that. It's you can work even 14 hours a day for quite a long time and still be very happy and still be very balanced and very have a lot of energy. when your values align with your activity, with what you're doing, you are at peace with yourself, you don't have any inner conflicts, you feel meaningful, you feel like you have autonomy over your work. But when these things are missing and you feel you have no control over your work and you have no control over the vision in which maybe the company is going or your workplace is going, and at the same time maybe you're also not recognized, you're not receiving enough recognition for your efforts, and if to this you even add some lack of ethics, maybe the company is doing something that you really consider unethical and so on, and you work really hard for something that you truly don't believe in, that's when you go into burnout. So that's why the key to burnout is to actually discover, okay, where is the misalignment and how do I fix this? How do I, maybe have the difficult conversations that I need to have at work? Or maybe how do I, sometimes some people choose to change their jobs because the environment is simply just too toxic to recover there.
Wow.
So I don't know if that made sense, if I answered your question.
Absolutely. I mean, the key thing that I took away from that is that it is about realigning, and it's about getting back in tune with what's important to you. And yeah, what your needs are, which I think you've really expressed as something that actually is being sacrificed a lot. So yeah, it makes complete sense. And I get the feeling that I want to say there's something in there about boundaries as well, and like being able to recognize your values and what's important, and having that alignment then means actually you can bring some more boundaries in place, which perhaps prevents future burnout from occurring.
100%. Yes, 100%. That's basically the solution. Once you've fixed, let's put it this way, the inner conflicts that you have, then you kind of that's the point where you realize, okay, so I actually have quite a lot of relationships where I've not been happy for quite a long time, and now I have to deal with that. You can't just avoid, like, you can avoid conflict, obviously, and tense situations, but it's not advisable if you want to, I've had clients, for example, who are well on their way to retire at 40 by by keeping that particular workplace, by keeping that particular role. So obviously it was super important for them to overcome burnout and fix the problems that were in that particular workplace. And this is not the only scenario. There can be many examples. So setting boundaries is the most definitely the solution to do that. And yeah, but then again, setting boundaries is something that does not come easily to overly responsible people.
No, I don't think they come easy to many of us, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to throw a little bit of a spanner in the works here. So I know that, like you mentioned, the official definition of burnout is kind of centered around that overextender and the person who just keeps going and going and going and going, very high achievers and behaviors kind of like that. But a lot of the underlying behaviors and fears that you've identified here and that you're working with, I know are also very common in, let's call them the underfunctioners, the me's of the world. And I suppose, like, my question really is around, can a person still experience burnout from avoiding, like, if they were in a position of like avoiding achievements or really taking on responsibilities and stuff because of also the anxieties and that are experienced around not meeting people's expectations, or a fear of not being good enough, a fear of not being competent, afraid to like speak out or voice their opinions because they're afraid of other people's responses saying that they're wrong or something like that. Is there still any kind of level there of burnout being able to be experienced around that?
That's a really great question. That's a really good question, and I've been thinking about it. because I've been noticing that there are people, who as you call them, as you say, under functioning. They appear to be under functioning or underperforming. Like they're at the opposite spectrum of the over performers. It looks from outside that they're not doing much, right?
Yeah.
From the outside,
From
it
the
looks like they're not doing much. But and to be honest, I don't know the answer to this, because it has not been. I've been working on this, on studying this, and noticing that hey, what's happening in their inner world is exactly what's happening in the inner world of the overly responsible people. It's very, very, like, as you pointed out very well, the roots are the same, the behaviors are different, but the roots and what happens inside their mind is very, very similar. Imposter syndrome, fear of failure. I don't know. The one thing that I've noticed that may be different between these two categories is the ease with which they set boundaries and they say no. And here it would be, I'd be curious to hear from you, like if this is something you noticed or not.
From my personal perspective, I really struggle with boundaries. And
Okay.
I think the main difference, I would say, is potentially that it's less people pleasing in terms of moving towards making sure that you're getting things done in order to please the person.
Yeah.
But more like I've heard this term before, there is collapse and submit. So it's more like a submissive state of like you don't say no, but you're very resistant to doing it. So there's a lot of procrastination, there's a lot of delay. And until that's really kind of, you have to do it now type thing, you don't get it done. Or the other person then eventually swoops in and just picks it up before you motivate yourself, I suppose, to do it. But the underlying thing still is that you're internally saying no, but externally saying yes.
Yeah. But the coping mechanism is different. Like, whereas usually the overfunctionals go straight into action mode and they do the stuff that they said they will do. The underfunctionals are saying yes, and they go into procrastination before doing it.
Avoiding it as much as possible until it's too late.
Yeah. So there is something there for sure. There is something there for sure to be furthermore studied and looked into. But as of now, all the academic research that I found and that's been done on burnout, it generally refers to overfunctional people. Who do too much, who work too many hours, and again with a misalignment of values. But I have been asking myself the same question: is it possible that is it still burnout, or is it something really similar, but with different nuances?
Yeah, I think that's such a fascinating thing, and I think it's really exciting actually that you're exploring that and to see is it the same, or is it like you said, something slightly different. I'd be really interested to hear kind of where you get to that in the future.
I'll definitely get back to you on that.
Yeah, that would be great. But I think what I'm taking away from this is that really the underlying theme here is that sense of unworthiness. It's sense of shame and unworthiness and all these behaviors on top of it of trying to gain and seek some form of validation and approval.
And it's such a pity, and actually whenever I think of this, I think of and I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, Malala Yousafzai's father. He was asked, so she's this very awesome activist for Palestinian young women to get access to education, and so she's definitely a role model of courage, of bravery, of being her authentic self despite all obstacles. And she was she's very close to her father. So her father was once asked by a reporter, like, what did you do with Malala? Like, how did you raise her that she became the woman she is today? And his answer was, I did not cut her wings. I think that's exactly what goes wrong, so many parents, out of love, really, out of trying to make you, to turn you into a responsible adult, and helping you, be your best self. They kind of, like, our generation of parents, they kind of didn't know how to do that, and we can't, like, there is something to think about, that they did not have the resources that we have today, so they had way less information on this. But basically, out of trying to help us be responsible, they really, many times they cut the wings of the people in our generation, and accidentally made them believe, like, you work hard, you are what you earn, you gotta help people, you gotta do this, you gotta be obedient, you gotta not stir the pot and stuff like that. And that's when you are a good kid.
Yeah, I love that phrase, the cutting of the wings. And basically what I'm taking away from this then is that we all need to regrow our wings.
Yeah,
this is a process of regrowing the wings.
I love that.
Okay, so just to finish up, do you have any last words of kindness that you'd like to extend to our quiet community, or for anyone out there who's listening that is experiencing burnout right now?
That's a great question. I guess I would say, hang in there. It's not permanent. It is figure outable. It has a solution, and it's not your fault. But there is something that you can do to fix it. And the sooner you get someone on board to help you with burnout, the faster your quality of life will improve.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Sure, on Instagram at Ioana, and I know that's super hard to like, no one would guess the spelling of my name. But so that's Ioana Patale burnout guide, and on ioanapatale.com.
And we'll provide some links to that, so you
can
just click on it and go directly to you. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on and speaking to me today. I found that really fascinating to hear all about burnout. I think it was a really insightful conversation.
Thank you so much, Stacey. It was such a pleasant conversation, and I really hope that everyone in your audience listening to this will really find value in it.
I'm sure they will, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you've taken away some valuable insights to work with. You can always join our wonderfully supportive quiet community for free to connect with others who are working through similar challenges. It's a great space to share and encourage one another. You can find out more by visiting quietconnections.co.uk. Be sure to tune in again next week, and in the meantime, stay connected.